What if everything you knew was wrong? You probably think Generation X is just the middle child, the quiet one, tucked between the loud boomers and the anxious millennials. You think they're just the whatever generation, fading into the background of history. But here's the thing. They are actually the most dangerous psychological anomalies on the planet. I know what you're thinking. How can a group of people who grew up on rotary phones and vinyl records be dangerous? It is because they are the only humans in history who had to learn how to exist in one reality and then completely rebuild their brains to survive in another, twice. They are the ultimate chameleons of the modern age. We are talking about a group of people who navigated the world with paper maps and then mastered the algorithm before most of us could even type. Imagine a world where you are completely unreachable. No GPS tracking, no instant DMs, just the sound of your bicycle tires on hot pavement and the ticking of a wristwatch. This was the first version of life for Gen X. It was raw. It was unscripted. They were the Latchkey kids, coming home to empty houses with nothing but a box of cereal and their own imagination to keep them company. They learned self-reliance not as a hobby, but as a survival tactic. Can you even fathom that level of silence? There was no digital noise to tell them who to be or how to act. They developed a psychological grit that's almost extinct in our hyper-connected world today. But wait, it gets worse for them. Just as they were getting comfortable with this analog freedom, the entire world they understood was deleted forever. Then came the first great relearning. The 90s didn't just bring grunge music and flannel shirts, they brought the digital invasion. Have you ever noticed how Gen X treats technology differently than everyone else? It is because they remember the before times. They had to pivot from filing cabinets to floppy disks while their bosses were still trying to figure out how to turn on a monitor. They didn't just learn the internet, they built it from the ground up. But they did it with a healthy dose of skepticism that younger generations simply lack. They were the first to experience the death of distance, and it fundamentally changed their brain chemistry. They became the first generation to live a double life, one physical, one virtual. Think about the mental gymnastics required to stay grounded when the very foundation of communication is shifting. Actually, forget everything I just said about the internet being the hard part. The second relearning was the real killer. It wasn't just about learning new tools, it was about the total collapse of the institutions they were told to trust. They entered the workforce with the promise of stability, only to watch the housing market vanish and the social contract burn to a crisp. They had to relearn how to work, how to parent, and how to survive in an economy that suddenly felt like it hated them. They are the sandwich generation, squeezed between aging parents and demanding children, yet they are the ones keeping the lights on. Have you ever wondered why they are so cynical? It is because they've seen the end of the world at least 3 times and still had to show up for work on Monday. But here's the twist you didn't see coming. This isn't a story about victimhood. It is a story about the ultimate power. Because Gen X had to relearn life twice, they possess a cognitive flexibility that is literally impossible for any other generation to replicate. Boomers are often stuck in the past, and Gen Z was born into the chaos. But Gen X? They are the translators. They speak the language of the street and the language of the cloud. I shouldn't even be telling you this, but they are the secret architects behind almost every major cultural shift of the last decade. They are the ones who know how to survive if the grid goes down, but they also know how to code the AI that runs it. They are the only people who truly understand that reality is just a software update. Why does this matter to you right now? Because we are entering a third relearning. With the rise of artificial intelligence, the world is shifting again. And who do you think is going to lead that charge? It won't be the people who are afraid of the tech, and it won't be the people who trust it too much. It will be the ones who have already survived the death of 2 different worlds. Gen X has a unique psychological immunity to the hype. They've seen the rise and fall of too many game changers to be fooled anymore. They are the stabilizing force in a world that feels like it's spinning out of control. If you ever feel like you can't keep up with the pace of change, look to them. They aren't just surviving, they are laughing at the chaos. Let's talk about the emotional resonance of being forgotten. There is a deep, quiet sadness in being the generation that everyone skips over. Have you ever felt like you were doing all of the work while someone else got all the credit? That is the Gen X experience in a nutshell. They are the ones who built the modern world in the shadows, never asking for a thank you because they were taught that thank yous don't pay the rent. This invisibility has given them a strange kind of freedom. They don't care about your likes or your followers. They care about what works. They care about results. This pragmatism is their superpower, but it also creates a massive divide. They are looking at the current state of the world with a mix of exhaustion and "I told you so." It's heavy. Wait, there is one more thing we haven't touched on: the music. Think about the sound of the 90s. It was the sound of a generation realizing that the American dream was a lie. That realization didn't break them, it forged them into something harder. They didn't want the white picket fence. They wanted the truth. This obsession with authenticity is why they are so hard to market to. You can't lie to someone who grew up watching the world change its mind every 5 minutes. They have a built-in BS detector that is currently working overtime. In a world of deepfakes and influencers, Gen X is the last line of defense for what is real. They are the only ones who remember what a person sounds like when they aren't performing for a camera. Here's the thing about relearning life: it leaves scars. You don't just change your habits, you change your soul. Every time Gen X had to adapt, they lost a piece of their previous identity. They are a collection of former selves. There is the analog child, the digital pioneer, and now the resilient veteran. This makes them incredibly complex people to understand. They can be cold and detached, yet fiercely loyal. They can be cynical about the future, but work harder than anyone to secure it. If you are a Gen Xer watching this, you know exactly what I mean. You feel like a time traveler who is stuck in an era that doesn't quite fit. And if you aren't Gen X, you need to realize that these are the people holding the bridge together right now. But don't get it twisted. This isn't just about the past. It's about the high stakes of right now. The psychology of Gen X is the blueprint for how we all have to live moving forward. The world isn't going to stop changing. In fact, it's only going to get faster. The ability to relearn your entire existence is no longer a niche skill. It's the only way to stay relevant. Gen X just happened to be the test subjects for this experiment. They were the ones who had to figure out how to keep their humanity while being plugged into a machine. They are the masters of the pivot. If you want to know how to handle the next 10 years, don't look at a tech guru's feed. Look at the person who survived the 80s. So here's the secret I promised you. Gen X didn't just relearn life twice because they had to. They did it because they are the only generation that actually likes the struggle. They find meaning in the friction. They are the only ones who realize that the old way and the new way are both wrong. The only thing that matters is the your way. They are the ultimate individuals in a world of clones. If you've learned a secret today about why the quietest people in the room are often the most capable, then you know what to do. Subscribe only if you're ready to stop following the crowd and start building your own bridge. Because the third relearning is coming for all of us, and you're going to want someone who knows the way.